sort of how having the right mindset and attitude. And for me, it was just in my head was, this will end. And I'm going to keep going until it's done or until somebody tells me to stop. And this is going to hurt. This is going to be horrible, but I will keep going because it will end. So it's a massive, massive learning experience, that one for myself. And that you get to carry forward into every other part of your life.
Is there anybody there?
Welcome to the Mind Hustle Podcast, practical advice for mastering your mindset and self-improvement. I'm your host, magician and mind reader, Dean Odell, and today I'm excited to be joined by Darren Grigas. In the last few years, Darren has raced and trained over thousands of miles through some of the toughest terrain in the world, across deserts and frozen lakes. He has withstood some of the harshest of conditions, including SAS interrogation. Not only that, but he does all of this for a good cause as an ambassador of Anna's Hope, a charity for children and young people with brain tumours. Hello and welcome, Darren. Thank you so much for joining us on the Mind Hustle Podcast.
How are we doing? Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
I think that was probably the longest introduction I've done because you've been involved in so much, and really just sort of jumping straight into this. You call yourself an adventure athlete. Can you paint a picture of some of the challenges that you have undertaken and where all this really started for you?
Yeah, well, like I say, trying to kind of work out what a sort of job title or what I do is. It's hard to sort of sum it up in just a couple of words. But I've gone from not too many years ago, just having a regular old desk job that sort of fixing and building websites to suddenly the last few years I've ended up kind of running ultra marathons and then some, and several world first crossings of deserts, jungles, giant 100-mile frozen lakes, and in random places like Mongolia and Patagonia and Panama, and it's just something that I kind of had a little seed of an idea, but never had any idea of how it would happen. But it's just something that took a life of its own, and I'm going with it, running with it, quite literally.
Lovely. And this all started for you really because you had a bit of a change in your life, didn't you?
Yeah. I was just sort of on my, I think a bit of a turning point and a bit of a wake up call that a lot of us need. Was a car accident on just a random foggy Tuesday morning or whatever it was, driving to that sit down at that old job that I weren't too excited about, and pulled to a stop and just waiting in traffic, and then just saw in my rearview mirror this big Land Rover Defender, complete with the bull bars and everything, just a tank basically, just skidding towards the back of my car, skidded about 5 car lengths, and I just looked and braced as you do, and it just slammed into me and smashed me through the next 2 cars.
Wow.
And one of those moments where you just I don't know about life flashing before your eyes, but you just it sort of happened, and very fortunately all of us walked out of the accident. Nobody severely hurt, except I did get some tissue damage around my lower spine, and went through a long series of treatments and rehab and acupuncture, cortisone injections, just constant pain and discomfort there. And part of the recommended rehab was just to stay active because it was tissue damage. Seize up if I stay still for too long, which, like most of us, is actually most of our 24 hours of the day. We're kind of 8 hours or thereabouts of laying down in bed. Then you get up and sit down to eat some breakfast, sit down in your car to drive to work, to sit down for 8 more hours, and maybe have a walk at lunchtime, or then sit in your car, come home, sit down to eat dinner, sit down to watch telly because you've had a hard day sitting down. So we're really kind of stagnant most of the time, aren't we? Majority of us, unless you've got an active job. So desk job was the wrong thing. So I just wanted to get into running. I thought I used to run as a teenager. I thought I'll do that again. And it was just wanted to stay active, overcome this problem, and kind of hit a hurdle straight away, really, where I was struggling to even run just 1 mile. And this was all part of the damage to my back. Everything was tensed and pulling everything, like the hip was twisted and my knee pain was coming out. So it came a long, probably 12-month journey to kind of build myself up to be able to become a half decent runner. But yeah, it was that trigger actually probably turned out to be a good thing, because it led on to things that I may well never have done had I not had that car accident.
Yeah, and what was that journey like, going from not being able to run a mile to doing some of these, extraordinary adventures and ultra? You mentioned ultra marathons as well.
Yeah, there was a slow burn to start with for the first couple of years or so, and just getting comfortable. I remember I changed jobs and was working over near these lakes, and you'll know Ferry Meadows, and so I'd go out and run around there in my lunch breaks, and it took, say, 5 weeks of going out 2 or 3 times a week before I could do this little 2.5 mile loop in one go without stopping to stretch or catch my breath. And something to really try and remind other people, going, look, there was a time when I couldn't even do a park run without having to stop 3 or 4 times. And
I think people will relate to that, won't they? Because you struggle, and it's about that. I've talked about it before, about the compound effect of sort of just doing those small, making small improvements every day. You don't necessarily notice them at the time, but you build up to big things that you can then look back on and say, look, I couldn't even run that mile, but now I'm doing 100 miles, and it's just
it is just that. Take every little win, and don't sort of beat yourself up too much if you'll have off days and off weeks even.
Would you motivate yourself by saying, right, I'm going to get around that loop without stopping? That's my goal. Did you do any of that forward goal sort of to help your mentality?
I was in that sort of those early stages, definitely determined. When my knee was screaming out in pain and literally buckling underneath me within like 1 or 2 miles, that was just a real fight against. No, I'm not having this. I'm not even in my mid-30s yet, and I'm not done yet. And went through, like I say, 12 months worth of orthotic insoles and cortisone and constant physio, weekly physio. Just to help get through it. So I was determined, and I'll get that mile. I'll get that to the mile. And then suddenly I got to a point where treatment had paid off, and it started to feel comfortable. And I got to my 3 miles and my 4 miles, and then you just naturally look at, all right, okay, what can I do? Is it realistic if I do our local half marathon in 6 months' time? Is that a big ask? But it's great.
Something there to push you. Yeah.
Crucial to set yourself a goal, no matter whether it's your couch to 5K or your first half or full marathon or whatever, or anything in between, or anything that isn't running. It's just set those goals and believe that no matter how big it is, that all you got to do is keep taking little steps and just creep towards it, and don't expect. There's no overnight success. There's no such thing as overnight success. It's lots of tiny wins, one after the other.
So how did you go from sort of park runs, 10Ks, to then doing these, the 100Ks across frozen lakes and things like that, across deserts?
The first one was when I'd done now, like I say, I did build up and do our local half marathon, and I was like now going, I'm not too bad at this. I weren't not winning any races or anything, but I was all right. Then it's just, I did a few like obstacle races, your mud races and rat races and things like that are just great fun. And I was just looking around, and it turned out I was actually quite good. I weren't, like I say, I was kind of coming in these races in top, say, 5 to 10%, as a placing, and I was really enjoying it as well. And then you get all this kind of, there's a big bravado, certainly in the obstacle racing community. There'll be this topless, shredded, bearded guys flexing their muscles, and just this is the toughest race. No, this is the toughest race. And I thought, actually, well, what actually is the toughest race? And did a little bit of Googling and come across one called the Marathon des Sables, which was recognised. It's been around a long time, but it was recognised as the toughest foot race on earth. And it's around 250 kilometers, 156-ish miles across the Sahara, and completely self-sufficient, carry all your food and kit on your back. And it's that distance over 5 days, pretty much 6 back-to-back marathons across the desert in like 50-degree heat. And I looked and thought, I've done a half marathon. The logical thing to do would be to do a marathon. I'm going to sign up for that bad boy.
Yeah, it's a big jump.
Yeah, it's a bit of a jump, although it was, but again, this was a massive goal. But I figured if I sign up for that, which was 10 months away, I'm at half marathon stage here, I'm going to have to do a marathon and another marathon and an ultra along the way. And it's just a commitment for that, wanting to do something for me. I wanted, realistically, I just wanted to do it for me. And if I had another car accident tomorrow, next week, next year, and wasn't as lucky to walk away, and would I be content that I'd done enough with myself whilst I had fully working arms and legs, and not just sat around going to my desk job and plodding through life. So I signed up for that really just to do something for me. And then it kind of, from that, because it was so big, such a big challenge, I felt, well, I can't do that and not fundraise, because people raise money for running a 5K. I'm running 6 marathons across the desert. I probably should raise some money for charity. And I was aware of a local charity, Anna's Hope, who do amazing things to help children battling brain tumours, and they have to recover afterwards. Even if they recover, they have to learn to walk and talk and play and be normal children again. They need a lot of treatment. So a really worthy cause, and a charity where nobody gets paid. And it's just like ticked all the boxes for me. And yeah, Carol and Rob are just fantastic, who found us. So suddenly this charity realised I was doing something a bit extreme. So used me as leverage to raise awareness. They did press releases. And then so suddenly I'm doing interviews for magazines and radio and things like that for the charity awareness. And then this whole challenge that started off as something for me was way, way bigger than me. I was just the middle of this thing that had grown around it. And so much accountability, which is a great thing. If you're ever setting yourself a big challenge, a great thing is tell someone, let people know I'm going to do this. Because then if you told people, then they're going to keep asking you, and you're accountable. You can't kind of quietly shy away from it when it gets difficult, because every time you go shopping, someone's going, how's it going? How's that going? How are you getting on? How's training? And
yeah, that's a great
it's
tip.
a powerful thing to have a bit of accountability from whether it's one person or everyone you know on Facebook. Just let people know you're doing it, and then it will drive you to. It gives you that extra purpose.
It gives you motivation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not only letting yourself down, but you would, ultimately let other people down if you weren't to.
Especially when people have donated about 20 grand to a worthy cause, to make sure you're like, well, I can't not do it now. So it just gives all that extra, and it also gives so much extra purpose to what you're doing. If you're doing it and it's helping other people and making a difference, or motivating and inspiring others, and that in turn has become kind of one of the most rewarding things of running across deserts and everything else, is the fact, just by sharing my journey and the different things, it's the fact I've been able to share that, and people are taking inspiration and being motivated, going, well, that's just Darren, I went to school with him, if he can do that, I can do this. And just making a difference, no matter how big or small, planting a seed for other people to think, well, if he can do that, I can do this. And that's just become given so much more purpose to me doing these things.
That's what it's about, inspiring other people to to do these things. And it's always such a shame that we're all guilty of this, that something that's negative or bad has to happen in our lives to kind of give us that wake up call, that shock to say, look, what am I doing with my life? I need some purpose. And you found running, and it led to all these things. And I think
That's a good thing. That's a good thing there, because you get a lot of people from, there's a basically, it's termed as, I believe, like post-traumatic growth, which isn't a common thing. Often people will get a traumatic event and it can knock them down. They can shy away from life, and as a result. But then, if post-traumatic growth, a smaller amount of people will take that and go, right, that happened. What can I learn from this? How can I better myself because of that, and turn it into something good, or share my lessons of that hardship and use that to help someone else. It's good to turn a bad into a good.
Sure. So what preparation, because obviously that was signing up to this ultra marathon across the desert, how do you prepare for that, especially in the UK where the weather doesn't get any higher than sort of 20 degrees and rainy and cloudy? How do you prepare for that climate change as well?
Well, the heat part is literally, it's not actually that bad. Picture if you go, when you remember when we could go on like nice sunny holidays abroad, and when you first step off the plane, the heat hits you, doesn't it? And you're like, whoa, we're here now. But then by the end of the week, it's the same temperature, but you don't
climatized.
And you don't even notice you got tan by the end of the week, because it's been so gradual. So kind of like that. Shortly before going to the desert, spent 5 days just doing an hour at a time, just going into a heat chamber, basically on a treadmill, running for a certain measured amount of time for about an hour at a certain pace, and they'd crank the temperature up bit by bit to about 50 degrees. So you're just in a sweat box, and every few minutes someone would come in, stick a thermometer in your ear, make sure you're not about to explode. And it's surprising how that just 1 hour a day for 5-6 days before going was enough to kind of help you acclimatise and be ready. So that was, interesting, definitely. So then when you get to the desert, your body's already kind of adjusted.
Sure.
But the other 9.5 months prior to that was going from running a half marathon to running kind of back-to-back marathons most weekends, just as training runs. And it's that gradual increase of making it normal and comfortable, and just slowly, it's that slow progression and determination to do it right, avoid injury, the right measured amount of training, not too much of this or this. And it's bizarre how it slowly became normal. And I still, even now, to be honest, it's still odd going, I'm just going to go out for a run, might do 30 miles.
And for most people that's really, really daunting, isn't it? And as someone who's sort of constantly pushing themselves, do you have any advice for people who might have a tendency to give up too easily? What can we do to push ourselves beyond our own sort of normal limits and achieve some of our goals?
I'd say don't put too much pressure on yourself to get everything right straight away, and just these things do take time. Whether it's obviously primarily on about sort of running, but a lot of the other stuff like this, training to be able to run ultra marathons across different terrains, that's reflected on me in other parts of my life. Say trying to grow a business, and just accept that it's a slow burn, and you'll get setbacks. Making mistakes is normal. Getting it wrong is normal. Just a key thing is accept that you'll always make mistakes. You'll always fail at something constantly. Just fail and fail forwards with it. So fail, learn something. You've learned one more way of how not to do a thing. So, okay, like May with his light bulbs, they say 10,000 times, Edison, 10,000 attempts to create the light bulb. And he was quoted as saying that, well, he knew he'd get it right because eventually he would run out of ways to do it wrong.
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah, so don't beat yourself up if you get things wrong. Just accept, brilliant, that's one more way how not to do it. Keep moving forward.
So you obviously, you got through this first challenge across that desert, those back-to-back marathons, and successfully, and that experience for you was an enjoyable one as such, and that obviously then where did that lead to afterwards?
Yeah, it was enjoyable, but oddly enough, I think because I put enough training in, by the time I got to that start line, I wasn't daunted, I was just excited. And I ended up, initially, my main goal was just to successfully complete it without injury or death or whatever. And if I was able to complete it, it'd be quite nice to finish in the top 50%, that'd be quite good. And it went a lot better than that. So I was like buzzing, and I came back, and funny thing is, you come back from running a race that's been dubbed as the toughest foot race on earth, and everyone's just like, okay, have you recovered yet? What's next? How are you going to beat that? I was like, oh man. So but the weird thing is, it kind of then puts you on a whole new level. If you've trained, so like, again, running, but relate this to any parts of business and such in life, you build up to your marathon level. Then for people that have run marathons, running another marathon is kind of normal for them. That's their new normal. If you've run an ultra marathon, or you've run 150 odd miles across a desert, that's suddenly normal. You're like, okay, what else can I do at this level? Because you've done this, not to belittle that, but you're like, well, I'm here now. Like I say, what is it? I didn't come this far to only get this far. I love that little quote that comes out. But then you can look at other things of that level and go, wow, now what? So I then thought, well, if I'm going to do a few of these, I don't really want to do another desert or just the same old thing. So what other terrain can I run on? Or what other places, parts of the world can I see? Because just being, aside from the running part, just being able to go out on foot and be immersed and be surrounded by nothing but sand dunes for as far as you can see is just amazing. And it just opened up doors to new things. And I got a connection with Jim and the team of Rat Race Adventure Sports, who just up the road from us in Stamford do what was the world's biggest obstacle race, the Dirty Weekend. And it's like 20 miles and 200 obstacles. And I've made a good connection with them, because when I'd just come back from the Sahara, the month later was that event. And I was one of 30 or so that did, there's thousands do the whole thing, but that was the first time they allowed a small group of us to try and do the double. So I go around the whole thing twice. Wow. So 40 miles and 400 obstacles. And I'd actually, since getting back from the desert, I had about a month, and all I'd done for 2 weeks was basically eat and sleep, and still kept losing weight because you kind of been sort of malnourished to an effect. And then did 2 weeks of a couple of little runs to loosen my legs off, and then went and ran this 40 miles and 400 obstacles and came in second. Oh. Just because it was still in all that 10 months prior was still in my legs and my body, and I just skipped on through. Got built a connection with the Rat Race guys, and more recently they've come up with some concepts of the bucket list series and some amazing ideas of just picking parts across the world. And I went with them as one of their test pilots. So I came up with a concept. Here's somewhere a giant frozen lake in Outer Mongolia that is about 100 miles long and 20 miles wide. And temperatures dropped down to about -50 at night and warmed up to about -30 mid-afternoon. And we've got an idea to see, can any of us run across it? And it was like, yes, because that's how. So basically, it was near on 100 degrees colder than when I was in the Sahara. And I just went, yep, let's do this.
That's a crazy thing to be a guinea pig for.
yeah, but also I found it really, like I say, with that new level, that going, okay, that's not overly daunting because you've trained up to this, done all the hard work. Those 10 months was the hard work, really, because mentally you get so much growth from realizing what your body is capable of and learning about your body. Then when someone says, do you want to come and run 100 miles across this frozen lake? It might be -30 when you're running. Like, yep, okay. So just show me the right outfit. And we went out, and it was incredible. And that went on. At the time, they thought they were, and believed that it'd never been done before. But then the chap got in touch with me. He'd run it, and he was the only person to ever run the length. So then still managed to be the second person ever to run across this lake. So I'm like, I'll take this. And yeah, that and then it led on, just keep working with them for different locations. So we went to Panama and did a world first crossing coast to coast, which was a couple of like 27, 28 mile road runs. And then on the third days, 3, 4, 5, 6, we went into the jungle hiking. But it was like the real deal. It was once we were in the jungle, there was no, I'm a celebrity, get me out here.
No footpath.
I'm tired, where's the nearest village? There were literally just days and days of hiking, and it was so tough, such steep terrain. But I think some days we were trekking solid for about 15 hours, and by the end of that day, we'd done 10 miles. And it's mentally, you've got to go, okay, that's okay. That's all.
That's it. And how do you deal with those things mentally? So you put yourself through some of these tough challenges, but what goes through your mind during a challenge like that? What motivates you to keep going?
Just getting it done. No, I think knowing, you learn a lot again from everything. You learn a lot about yourself. Every time something's difficult and you can overcome it, you realise how much more you've got in you, in the tank, especially when you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. And it's a really valuable thing to know what's really there, because when you're starting out, running, working, whatever it might be you're doing, your body and your brain will constantly play tricks on you, like self-preservation, especially when it comes to exercise. Your body will start screaming signals at you to, whoa, you're tired now, slow down, have a break, have a donut, you'll be all right. But realistically, you're not even halfway there to your potential at that point. When you get, your body's trying to say, your body's doing its job, it's self-preservation. Your body's sort of saying,
do you get through that?
Yeah, this is hard. This might hurt a bit. We want you to slow down and rest again, then go and eat some more food. But
yeah, how do you get through that? How do you know when you've hit a wall, but you can actually, you can break through it and go much further? Because I've done a little bit of running myself, but nothing to. But I struggle, and I feel myself. I need to stop. But if I go out with someone else, and you've got that someone else there, you find yourself just going that much further, because you've got that motivation of the other guys who's going a little bit quicker, and he keeps you going. But it's just knowing, especially when you're on your own, I think it's hard, and it's just knowing how to get through that pain wall and such.
I think with regards to the running side of things, when people say they kind of struggle, or they'll say, I don't know how you can run that far. I can run 4 or 5 miles, but I can't run any further than that. Most common thing I'd say to most people is just, if you're struggling, slow down a bit. Slow down, keep going. Take a breath, and don't listen to these people who will say, whatever you do, don't stop running. Well, why not? Unless you're in a race and you want to win a race and get on the podium, then stop, take a breath. If you're struggling, stop and if you come into a hill, walk up it, catch your breath, take a photo of some geese, carry on, enjoy it. That's the thing that was a big kind of again, a big turning point for me, because I'm not a track racer. I'm not racing big sort of proper runner races. I'm not on that kind of level of just sprinting out things, and I get left for dust by half these guys you see in the little vests and the little shorts, and I'm just like, I've just found my thing, which is go out, keep going, have a lovely time, soak it up, and just enjoy the terrain and the surroundings. So if you want to just enjoy running, don't put too much pressure on yourself to, I've got to be faster than last week, I've got to keep up with matey. Just slow down a bit, take a breath, and carry on. Go, right, I'll get there when I get there. And at the end of it, realistically, if it's taking you 10 minutes longer than you wanted to, but you got those extra miles in, cool, you got the extra miles in, and then you've got that, and you can build up your pace at a later date, eventually, naturally. But just get comfortable with going, I did keep going for another half an hour. Brilliant. Who knew? So
you've talked about going across the desert, across frozen lake.
Yeah.
You've also been interrogated by the SAS, and I just wanted to sort of for you to sort of talk about that experience, because that was part of a bigger challenge, and you were I'll let you explain about that.
That was, I mean, most people are very familiar with the Channel 4 SAS Who Dares Wins series. It's been going for a few years, and I signed up with a mate to something very similar. It was pretty much the same, it modelled on pretty much, but it was a similar series called the Intrepid series, not televised, but they were created this one. It turned out to be a one-off, to be honest, and we went in. It was done over 4 stages, and initially turning up, it was designed and led by ex-special forces, so all the same deals. You got the DSs and the guys circling around you, whispering in your ear, shouting in your face, whilst trying to do 1 million squats and push-ups in the mud and all the stuff you see on that series. And initially, me and my mate Craig signed up because we just went, that looks cool. They're saying it's going to be the toughest series in the UK this year. So again, like the desert, just going, brilliant, sign us up. Because it's a chance to really test yourself. Then let's go and have a go, see how well we do. And we turned up, and at the start of it, there were probably about 400 people, I think, in the first stage. And they quite quickly got whittled down. That things from we're in a massive, dirty, sort of muddy arena. There's a bell in the corner so people can ring the bell and quit and leave. And right from the very get-go, after it started at 4 a.m. and we knew it was going to be nasty from the start. We've been sleep deprived. We're trying to camp, but they've been playing trance music and crying children sounds and firecrackers going off. So we had barely any sleep, and by 3 a.m. woke us up for a 4 a.m. start. And once they got us all huddled together in the cold and the steam coming off us, the very first thing they did was kind of hands on your head, down you go, jumping squats, 300, go. And we're like, 300, trying to jump in wet mud, so your feet were getting heavier. And then got to about 50 something, and they went, right, that's 1. I went, oh, right, it's going to be like that, is it? And within 10 minutes, we'd started off in teams of 2, and within 10 minutes, the first team had quit. Somebody had already been sick in the skip, and there was a skip full of cold water. So it had circle around you, go, your feet aren't high enough, get in the skip. And then me and Craig are like, we're not going in the skip, like this, look fit. And they went, you look too fit, get in the skip. And we're like, oh. So everyone went in the skip of cold water, repeatedly, drills, push-ups, carry your mate like a baby, keep squatting, hours and hours of stuff like this. And then we just knew that the top 20 teams of 2 would go through to the next stage. And after 14 hours of hell, and sort of a couple of obstacle races, carrying a heavy sandbag, me and Craig we just eked through. We were actually the 20th team to make it through, and went, right, relief, 14 hours of hell. And I think in those 14 hours, we had 2, maybe 3 2-minute breaks to run to our bags to get a drink and a snack. And then back here, quick, keep jogging. And so we got through that first stage, and we're just thinking, oh man, we were a bit gutted that we made it through because it was horrible. And we're like, oh man, we've got to do it again. And how are they going to make it worse? So then, we kind of learned a lot, went through that. And then the next stage, they did make it tougher. It was more drills, and we were over in Snowdonia, and more drills. And then after an hour of beastings in and out of water and on a beach, but on a 55-pound pack, and it was a race up to the top of Snowdon, down the other side, and back again. And it worked out about just over 20 miles with this 55-pound pack. And same again, me and Craig were just down the other side, hating life, questioning our life choices, down the other side thinking, I hope we've missed the cut-off point. And then we're out, we can go and get a beer. And we got down the halfway, and they went, well done, lads, you're in 3rd, keep going. I'm like, oh man, let's go back over again. And only 6 teams of 2 made it. Some didn't make the cut-offs or just quit or got injured. And so then there were 12 of us went through to the 3rd and 4th final stages, where up at an old POW camp in Scotland, and that went into what you see on the like SS Who Dares Wins. So I liken it to that because that's what people are familiar with. 36 hours of that sleep deprivation, food deprivation, mind games, stress positions, everything. And it was at the end of that, there were only 3 that actually completed the entire series and got through to the end. And there was just 11 minutes between me and the guy that won the whole thing. And and I only turned up on day 1 just to have a crack.
You were there to the bitter end.
Yeah, but that was a really big learning curve for me. Is learning about what's in here and in here, and how important that is, because there was, without doubt, I was by far not the definitely not the strongest, not the fittest, youngest or fastest in that 400 or the 40 or the 12. They were much stronger, physically stronger than me in many ways. But then mentally, I had enough to drag my sorry, aching bones on and on and on. And just goes to show that sort of how having the right mindset and attitude. And for me, it was just in my head was, this will end. And I'm going to keep going until it's done, or until somebody tells me to stop. And this is going to hurt. This is going to be horrible, but I will keep going because it will end. So it's a massive, massive learning experience, that one for myself, and that you get to carry forward into every other part of your life.
So that experience is incredible, and I can't even imagine what that was like. But like you say, you learned a lot about yourself, mentally and physically, and so and you've already alluded to taking that knowledge into your day to day. So going through that, what advice would you give to us on a sort of a day basis that we could take from your learning? And is it about that, just not giving up and that resilience to sort of push through?
I mean, definitely. It's every time you, as I touched on earlier, every time you sort of take that win, every time you push outside your comfort zone, that's where you get stronger. That's how you grow. That's how you get more confidence and belief in yourself. So dare to push yourself that little bit further. You don't have to go and absolutely bust your balls and go, right, he's done that, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow, that's it. Because your body does need time to prepare and grow and be able to take those things. But just like I say, just take, every time you are able to endure hardship, a failure, a knockback, a mistake, injury, whatever, but you come through it, you learn something from it, and don't kind of think, oh, why does that happen to me? Why does it always happen to me? Which a lot of people have. Oh, poor me. But how about, right? What can this teach me? What can I learn from this? What have I learned from this? And how can I not let that happen again? Yeah. So there's always something that, even when it's the horrible stuff, when stuff goes wrong, 1, that's when you learn the most of the time. 2, that's when you get the best stories. You're like, imagine if you go out and everything went to plan. You got nothing interesting to talk about. But you went out, I know you had the shop in the bag split, I had to carry everything like this, and the cat ran away and I had to chase it down the street. That's life, and that's part of the stories, and that's what you learn from. So just if you get knockbacks, things go wrong, just learn from it, take it forward into the next thing, and accept that you're going to have a hell of a lot more mistakes and failings for the rest of our lives. We'll just keep failing till we're dead, basically, but that's part of life.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, about pushing yourself outside of that comfort zone, and even if that's signing up to your local park, we're talking about running, but obviously this again can apply much more outside of that. And if it's signing up to a park run or just something that's just outside of that comfort zone, that you can just push yourself and that goal that you've got to get there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, whatever it is. If you've always thought of wanting to sing. People sit and watch The Voice and things like that. Why don't you just go to the nearby theatre and sign up for something and then do it? You've experienced it. If you go up there and actually think, oh, Mum said I was crap, so let's not do that again. But you've been up and done it. So yeah, just push yourself to outside your boundaries and your comfort zone, and just there sort of tread over that line and then go, oh, actually, it's not that bad. Yeah, and that's where you start to go, okay, maybe I'll take another step a little bit further past my comfort zone. But then your comfort zone moves with you, doesn't it? So just keep stretching that.
The other thing I wanted to just mention as your adventures and some of the things you've done, you've actually spent some time with Sir Ranulph Fiennes. So what was that? Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, he was one of my tent mates when we were in the Sahara. So that was a little bonus, to be honest, to the whole experience. And yeah, so there was 8 of us in a tent, we call it, but it was just a blanket on sticks and a blanket on the floor, and then 8 guys. And yeah, Ranulph was one of them. And yeah, it's just at the end of the day, really nice guy, humble. We had, as you'd expect, probably the busiest tent in camp, because especially the Brits were all coming every day. They're coming over to meet Sir Ranulph Fiennes and tell me some stories. But he'd be more interested in them, asking their stories. He's been telling his stories for years, so it makes sense. I can understand it. And yeah, he's just a good old boy. And like I say, you get that in quite quickly in those kind of scenarios. You bond. So there's 8 of us. And we had the BBC following, because they were following his journey. So we've got to know them as husband and wife, and great couple. But you just 8 guys in a tent swapping peanuts for fruit pastels and stuff like that. And I'm shaking Ran over here because he's snoring like a lawnmower on a gravel drive. and he's just like, oh, sorry. And I didn't realise even till it weren't till the end of the week. We had all these Brits and everyone all week long pestering him for selfies and things like that. And we had a few shots together, the groups. But then it wasn't until we're in the airport on the way back. And I went, oh, Ran, we haven't had a photo. Do you want to get a selfie with me so you can tell your mates? And he goes, oh, yes. And he goes, look at that. And I've even got the trademark fingers hanging over your shoulder.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he's a cracking guy. He's a good guy. So it was a really nice experience to share with him. And during that one point when we did have a chat, I just asked him about when he summited Mount Everest on his 3rd attempt, I believe. And by which point he was 65. So when he got to the summit of Everest, he was the oldest Brit to have done it at that point. And just asked him, I said, well, how did you go about that? How did you train? How did you get the kind of questions you're asking me? How did you get up there? And he says, well, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that is, in a nutshell, that's it. It's because it's no matter how hard climbing a mountain, running across a desert, frozen lake, whatever it is, or whatever your goals are, however hard it gets, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Accept that some will hurt and you will fail, you will trip, you will stumble, but just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, it's not often going to be a straight line, but you'll get there eventually.
And often you don't even get where you started, where you initially set off to do, because your path's you want to go from A to B, but instead you're going to do this and you're going to end up over here. Like I'm now doing. After that car accident, I never thought, I know, once I can run past a mile, I'll run across deserts, jungles, mountains, ice, and then I'll go and speak at schools, and I'll speak at Buckingham Palace. I've got it all sewn up. All these things just happened, and no plan, just went, okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you that question. What is next? What are you planning? Because obviously this year's sort of turned a lot of things upside down. So I'm sure you had some plans for this year. And what for you? What is next?
For me, I'm kind of wanting. At the minute, I'm launching a few little mini adventures myself for taking other groups. I've ended up kind of building a bit of a following off of everything I've done. And it's really, like I say, it's really rewarding and nice to be able to help other people achieve that kind of goal. So I've created some little 3-4 day events. First ones are over in Wales. We're sticking to the UK for now. last year, we're going to launch last year at Wales, Scotland, had Iceland, Croatia, Pompeii, some amazing little sort of adventures that would be running, biking, kayaking, and I'm looking forward to getting those international ones sorted for next year. And I'm just having people come in with me, small groups, 9 or 10, and just help push people past and find their sort of new the real limits that they've got, because we have those perceived limits that our bodies are saying, oh, like we said, slow down, that's it, you can't go any further than that. I'm just going to gently edge people a bit further. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We'll do this. We'll eat this. You'll do this. And the idea is just to help people, kind of give them a springboard to go from their belief being here to their belief being up here. So that's a bit of a focus for me. And then for me personally, I'm hoping there's a couple of ideas I'm chatting with good mate about kind of tackling a world first solo crossing of something very stupidly big. Just for me, it's like that first one, going from half marathon runner to doing the Marathon des Sables. Now I'm like, that's my new normal. So I really want to push myself right up here. Kind of thing where like Land's End to John O'Groats will probably be a training run. That's the kind of size that I'm thinking.
Yeah, I've always had it in my head that one day I'd like to cycle John O'Groats to Land's End, and that's one thing I would like to do. But yeah, like you say, for you, that's just a walk in the park.
Well, it's never easy. Never easy. It's one thing that people do make the mistake of always going, "Oh, it's easy for you. It's easy for you. It's only a half marathon. It's only a marathon." I'm like, actually, 100% is 100%. And if I go and want to do a park run PB, I'll probably be more anxious about that than having a casual 30 miles on a Sunday, eating donuts as I go around.
Yeah,
lazy 30 miles than all hell for a park run personal best. When I know.
Yeah, and you've just got to remind those people that say that is that you couldn't get around that 1 mile circuit to begin with without stopping, and you know that you can get there. You know, like you said, if you can do it, you know, anyone can do it.
Oh, definitely, yeah, because I was there. I was that struggling person, and I'm still not the greatest runner there is. I'm a long way from the real great runners. I just go out and enjoy it and keep on going.
What do you look for now in a challenge like that? What excites you? What do you look for to challenge yourself?
I think it's come down to kind of location, I think, is a big one. Just its way of I mean, you can't see, I've got a world map on the other side of this, where it's one of those scratch maps where you can scratch off the places you've been.
Yeah, we've got one, yeah.
They're great, and I'm looking and think, yeah, right, where else can I go? And it's just seeing like different places. Like, so I did do another desert run with Rat Race guys across Namibia. And that we went across, nobody had ever run this route. There'd been driven safaris, but instead we were on foot running through a safari. So we weren't on safari, we were in safari. And the same with that and the jungle and the ice. When you're just running around, you're in it. It's so different. If you're sat in a car, it's lovely driving through Scotland or wherever, but you're effectively just watching it on screen, aren't you? Looking through your window.
The safety of the car.
But to be in it, really living it and jumping over lizards and rocks, and I had to see some sidewinder snakes slithering along, and I'm sort of following with my camera and seeing zebra running across, an ostrich across that way, finding leopard prints where I'm going across this dry riverbed. And there's nothing greater than sort of just being immersed in these real places and thinking, wow, it's the stuff you see on sort of David Attenborough talking about, just to be in those places. It's the same if you just to go, like to just go on a little run or a bike ride around where you live. How many times do you reckon you've noticed like a house that you've never seen before, that you've driven past 1,000 times, but you're like, oh, didn't even realise that. Yeah. But when you're walking, running, when you slow down, you see so much more detail. And that it's just, I just love the idea of being able to take in that detail, and take myself to different parts of the world to soak that up.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask you: is are you able to enjoy that scenery and the places you've been? Because you're putting yourself so much through so much strain at the time. Do you get a chance to enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely. It's an important thing to do. And that's again going back to the slow down thing, because if you're just all out racing and putting all that pressure on yourself, you're missing out. You want to stop and look up and look around and just think, wow, look where I am. Look what. Even if it's just in like here in the UK, we've got some of the most stunning scenes and places around here, and just to be out, even on a walk, whatever, you have to stop, just lift your chin up, look around, and just take it in, because that's what we're meant to be doing. We're meant to be out, moving around, soaking up the air and sunlight.
And about gratitude and being grateful for what we've got. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are 3 questions that I ask every guest, and the first one here is, can you share your favourite quote? Is there a quote that you have that you?
Favourite quote off the top of my head? So many. I do like it's probably been done and done. I know people have it tattooed on them and stuff, and I was one of those I thought about. But it's the old Chinese, I think, proverb: fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Basically, mean no matter how many times you fall, you stumble, you get it wrong, get back up again. And I mean, the numbers, it could be anything, but just accept you're going to get knocked down. Things will go wrong. Get back up, carry on. That's how we keep moving. So I think that's one of my favourites.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that one. That's so. The second one is, can you recommend something that you have been inspired by? So it might be a book, a piece of music, or art. It's totally up to you. Something that our listeners might enjoy.
I'm inspired. To be honest, I take inspiration in bloody everything. Even like other people. It took massive inspiration from a lady I'm going to be coaching, and is coming on one of those Wales trips. Just that, again, back to that post-traumatic growth. She's just come through the back end of 18 months of cancer treatment and come out, got the all clear, and is now going, right, life, come at me. And she's wanting to do more, be more. And every time I meet somebody or see somebody who has done sort of overcome adversity, that for me, and no matter how in the smallest of ways or biggest of ways, that for me just inspires me to think, wow, I'm here fully working, arms, legs, body, brain, mostly. And seeing other people that are disadvantaged or have had an injury or an illness and yet come back fighting, that gets me every time.
Such an inspiration, and to be involved in that person's journey and to see them grow and take on some of these challenges that you're gonna be doing. So fantastic. And the last one is just any other words of wisdom that you would like to leave with our listeners.
I think that just as far as words of wisdom goes, I have a little proverby phrase, I don't know even what you call it, on my website, it's just, or what I put on things, just saying you don't have to go fast or far, just go. And that primarily applies to the running, and like I've touched on, you don't have to put pressure on yourself, you don't have to do a marathon, just step outside the door and go and do a nice slow steady mile, or you don't have to go fast or far, just go. If you've been thinking about that business idea, that sideline, setting up your Etsy shop, applying for that place in a band or something, just do it. Because what's worst that can happen? You get told no. The worst that can happen doesn't go to plan. Then you just go back and you start again. So got these things. Don't, like back to the car accident, don't wait to have hindsight tell you should have done that when you could.
There's nothing worse than later on in life and having those regrets about things you should have done when you could have done it.
I'd rather have tried something and failed than just not tried at all, and that's it. And I've failed a lot, but I don't mind in the least. So just keep trying, failing forwards.
I think that's the perfect thing to end this podcast on. But before you go, where can our listeners connect with you online? You've talked about these adventures, trips and things that you're going to organise in Wales. So where can people find out about those?
Okay, so keeping it simple, well, obviously my name, Darren Grigas, and as far as Google knows, I'm the only Darren Grigas. So that's easy to find me for a start.
The one and only.
Yeah, so just creatively called darrengrigas.com is my website, which I've not updated enough for ages on the adventures and things, but the same as any Twitter, Instagram, at Darren Grigas, easy peasy. Give me a follow, drop me a message. And if you want some support or help or advice, then I'm happy to spurt it out.
Thank you very much. And I'll obviously put all the links in that in the show notes below. But thank you, Darren. Thank you for taking this time to talk to us. And I've been really inspired by this, and I'm sure our listeners will be too. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank Darren Grigas for joining me on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode and are as inspired as I am to get more active and to push yourselves further outside of your comfort zone. What exciting adventures do you have planned for the near future? Let me know by contacting the podcast through Instagram or via www.themindhustlepodcast.com. And as always, don't forget to head over to Apple Podcast to leave a quick review and let me know what you think. Now, until next week, I'm Dean Odell, and this has been the Mind Hustle Podcast. Thank you for listening, and have an amazing week.